This time we're going to have our Kern County District Attorney Cynthia Zimmer. You know, I truly appreciate her leadership and her willingness to find justice for our loved ones. And these individuals that are here today, they truly care about our communities. They care about us us families that are grieving, that are hurting. The pain does not go away after we bury our loved ones. It continues to linger and go on, especially when the suspect has not yet been apprehended. But I appreciate the dedication of her and her staff at the Kern County District Attorney's Office. Let's give a warm welcome to Cynthia Zimmer.
Good morning. Thank you, Pastor. My name's Cindy Zimmer. I'm Kern County's District Attorney. Today we're here to remember victims. And we're here to show support for family members of those victims. We have to face some hard truths, and Kern County is a violent place. And sadly, we've seen so much violence in our North Kern communities of Delano, McFarland, and Wasco. 2020 has been our deadliest year on record in Kern County, with 125 homicides countywide. Today, I want to honor every one of those homicide victims who lost their lives in 2020 or 2021 in northern Kern County by reading their names. I want you to hear their names because every one of these victims was loved. They were loved by their families, and most of all, they were loved by God. Lawrence Tate was murdered on January 1st of 2020 in North Kern State Prison. He was 63 years old. Nayeli Carrillo Gonzalez was murdered the next day on January 2nd, 2020 at Cesar Chavez Park in Delano. She was 19. Ricardo Villegas was murdered in Wasco on January 3rd on Broadway Street. He was 27. William Lara was murdered on January 10th in McFarland on 5th Street. He was 36. Adam Gillen was murdered on January 31st in Delano on County Line Road. He was 21 years old. Michael Morales murdered on February 28th in McFarland on 2nd Street. He was 41. Santiago Rodriguez was murdered on April 4th in Wasco on Gaston Street. He was 20. Abraham Romero murdered on April 7th in Delano on Anita Avenue. He was 16. Robert Hargrave was murdered on April 30th in Kern Valley State Prison. He was 48. Robert Beltran was murdered on May 1st in Kern Valley State Prison. He was 50. Michael Serrato was murdered on November 7th in Delano on Maria Way. He was 21. That was June 7th, May 7th. Angel Villarreal was murdered on May 7th in Delano on Cecil and Wallace. Javier Ibarra murdered on May 27th in Wasco on F Street. He was 71. Jesse Abarca murdered on June 8th in Wasco, age 32. Renee Garcia Rodriguez murdered on June 16th in Delano on Ellington Street, age 18. And on the same day, on July 2nd, in Delano, Elena Dorig, age 12, and Michaelia Osorno, age 11, the same day, 4th of July weekend, little girls. Jose Mendoza murdered July 8th in Wasco State Prison, age 33. Omar Oran murdered in Kern Valley State Prison on July 30th, age 40. Alvaro Gaona murdered in Delano on October 9th, age 22. Jamie L. Ringgold, murdered on December 23rd in Wasco, age 34. Manuel Acosta, murdered on December 24th in Delano, age 37. Vicente Regalado, murdered on December 26th in Wasco, age 23. That was 23 people whose names that I read, and they mattered. They were loved. We've had 2 more in 2021. Joe Maldonado, murdered February 5th in Delano at North Kern Cemetery. He was age 30. And finally, Christina Armanderas. She was murdered on February 16th in Delano on County Line Road, and she was 45. I hope I haven't missed anyone. But how sad. I hope Christina is the last one that we have to hear who lost her life in North Kern this year. Most of these people that we are honoring today who lost their lives were victims of gang violence. And these killings were absolutely senseless. But we know too well that murder not only takes the life of innocent victims, it scars and wounds those who are left behind, and they are left to deal with it for the rest of their lives. The lives of mothers and fathers, brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, they're all impacted, and their lives are forever changed. A homicide survivor is someone who has been impacted by the death of a loved one by homicide. And one can truly never feel how they feel, how a survivor of homicide feels, unless you have been in their shoes. Survivors, we honor your strength and your courage, and we want you to know that you are not alone. The citizens of Kern County care about you, and they care about your loved one. We stand with you today, and we will be here for your tomorrow and the next. Many of last year's homicides are not solved. The killers are roaming free. And as your district attorney, I have to acknowledge that for every case in which these prosecutors standing over here bring justice to your family, there is an equally deserving family out there who doesn't get to see justice. Homicide cases do not resolve themselves. We have tools that we use, and those tools are expanding every year to help identify killers, like DNA and ballistics and those types of scientific advances. But what we need is cooperation from the community, because that is really how homicides are solved. Addressing our problems with violent crime requires that members of this community come together and acknowledge we have a problem, acknowledge this is a dangerous place in the community. If you see something, say something. This week in Bakersfield, there was a first-degree murder conviction handed down by a jury in a 2019 Delano murder. The victim was Arturo Galvan. The prosecutor is standing right over here, David McKillop. That case was solved because of eyewitnesses and because of DNA. Galvan's killer will spend the rest of his life in prison without the possibility of parole. There will be justice for the family of Arturo Galvan, but there should be justice for all families of victims of crime. Every family deserves justice. I'm here with my co-workers from the district attorney's office. A lot of them came out here today. They're over here. Many are victim advocates, many are prosecutors. Families of the prosecutors are here. We want to help you. We want to help you. If there's information that we can supply that can help you, we want to be able to do that. But we want you to know that we will never give up hope, ever, that every homicide case in Kern County can be solved. And today we, as a community, we stand together. Law enforcement, first responders, victims, survivors, and we encourage people to do what is right. If you see something, say something. Do what is right. Make a call. Because there must be justice for victims and for people in this community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. So much appreciate you and your staff being here with us in Delano. Means very much to us. At this time, I'd like to, we're going to have some of the pastors come up and pray. And then those of you who are here, if your names of the loved ones have not been read that were prior to 2020, let me just say that you all are just as important, and the district attorney's office views you as such, and we do too. And thank you so much. It means a great deal to hear from our representatives and elected officials. And if you are listening, and if you have information of any of these cases of homicides that have taken place in the past that are still under investigation, we encourage you to do the right thing, because somebody out there, I'm sure, has watched our vigils, has listened to us, has heard our statements, and they're not saying anything. They have this vow of silence. Well, I want to encourage you to do the right thing and pick up the phone and call Secret Witness at area code 661-322-4040. Think about the person that you're protecting. Think about the person that you're trying to conceal this information. Think about it. Do you have any children? And what if this happened to one of your children? You would want someone to speak out that knows something about your case. God forbid that this ever happens to you. This is something that I wish to happen upon no one. But you think about it, those of you who are listening, those of you who are afraid of retaliation. Let me just say this, do the right thing, do what is honorable, and pick up the phone and call, because that person should never hurt another human being again. As long as they are loose and on the streets, they have the potential. When somebody takes the life of another individual, either they have no conscience, or they're just not thinking right. They're not in the right mind to do such a thing. And we don't hate them. We don't hate them at all. I don't. I publicly said that I forgive whoever these individuals were that murdered my son Adam. And that's one of the hardest things to do. That's not something that my flesh, that I wanted to do. But I knew that is something that I had to do for myself, for my well-being. And so from my heart, I did forgive that person, but I still want that person to be arrested and to be able to think about what they did. And yes, you may have to serve time for the rest of your life in prison, but I want you to sit and think about what you've done. And I also, most of all, want you to reach out to God and ask our Heavenly Father to forgive you for taking the life of someone. So please call and do the right thing. Again, the number is 661-322-4040.